I'm Ariana Monroe, 35 years old, co-founder and former interim CEO of my family's company, Monroe Systems, a medical technology firm based in Austin, Texas. That morning, I arrived at the office at 7:40 a.m. as usual. The first quarter had just ended, and according to the schedule, I was presenting the performance report to the board. I brought my laptop, notebook, and a printed breakdown of our proposed expansion into the Denver market. No one told me that day would also be the day I was pushed out. The moment I stepped off the elevator, I knew something was wrong. The main door to the conference wing was decorated with a white and gold balloon arch. A large bouquet of hydrangeas stood in the center, next to a mini buffet table with champagne and gold-dusted cupcakes. I froze for a few seconds, my heart skipping a beat. I pushed open the door to the boardroom. Everyone was already seated. My parents, our in-house attorney, the CFO, and a few faces from the strategy team. They all looked at me, but no one said a word. Only the assistant gave a faint nod, eyes avoiding mine. I didn't even get the chance to ask what was going on before my mother spoke, in the voice she only used for formal announcements. Ariana, you made it just in time. Just in time for what? Before I could form a question, my father stood up and placed a hand on my sister's shoulder. Sabrina. Her dark blonde hair was neatly pinned back, her navy mule suit sharp down to every crease. Today, he said, marks a new milestone for Monroe Systems. We are proud to announce that Sabrina Monroe will officially take over as CEO starting this week. Applause broke out. But not from me. I stayed rooted to the spot, feet heavy as lead. Sabrina smiled, stepping forward as if accepting an Oscar. She glanced at me and nodded politely, like I was a guest. Nothing more. I barely registered the rest. Melissa, the head of HR, walked toward me holding a cream-colored folder. She didn't meet my eyes when she said quietly, Ariana, this is your termination notice, effective immediately. I let out a laugh, silent and bitter. No warning, no private conversation, just this? Sabrina stepped in closer, whispering, Don't take it personally. This is business. I took a step back, gripping the folder tighter. My name was printed in bold on the top left corner. Empty. Cold. As hollow as the way they were treating me. I don't remember walking out of that room. I only remember that no one stood to see me off. No one thanked me. The glass door closed behind me, and the applause picked up again. I tried to swipe my access badge. It didn't work. A junior employee I had mentored on her first day walked past me, holding a box with my name on it, a photo of me and Mom from our first company event, a ceramic mug that read Future CEO, a birthday gift from Sabrina, on my 30th. And the Mont Blanc pen my father gave me when I signed the founding documents. Everything had been neatly packed as if they'd planned this, as if they were sure I'd disappear. Outside the building, I sat in my car for nearly 10 minutes without turning the engine on. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt nothing. The worst kind of emptiness I'd ever experienced. The kind that doesn't break you in one loud moment, but steals your breath slowly, deliberately. I had given up my youth, my personal life, and even my own dreams to build that company, and now they had thrown me out, like an outdated software update. I got home just before 9 a.m. The Texas spring sunlight filtered through the kitchen curtains, and everything felt so calm it was almost mocking. I set the box down on the counter and quietly opened the lid. Every item inside carried pieces of my life, 13 years tied to Monroe Systems. The Mont Blanc pen my father gave me the day I co-founded the company was still there. The engraving was slightly smudged. That was the day I turned down Jared's proposal, a mechanical engineer I had loved for 4 years, because the company was in a financial crisis right when our primary medical device design got delayed. I remember saying, if I walk away now, Mom and Dad lose everything. Jared didn't argue. He just nodded. 3 months later, he moved to Seattle. I didn't blame him. I haven't really forgiven myself either. I worked without pay for 9 months after that. cut every personal expense, no restaurants, no shopping, not even my own health insurance. At that time, Sabrina was still at Stanford, working on her MBA like mom wanted. I was the one juggling cash flow, negotiating debt with suppliers, and trying to keep clients from canceling. Then came that night, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. I remember it well because the power had gone out across North Austin. Sabrina called at 11:18 p.m., her voice frantic. I was lying on the floor, holding my laptop by the window to catch the weak Wi-Fi from the neighbor's house. "Hey, Ari," her voice cracked. "We're about to default on the advance for Aegis Medical. If we don't come up with $200,000 by Friday morning, they'll walk." I didn't respond right away, not because I didn't have the money, but because I knew this would pull me in deeper. That savings was meant to fund my own R&D center, my quiet dream I'd never told anyone, not even my parents. I asked, "Have you talked to Dad?" "Dad's credit is maxed, I checked. Mom's in Arizona with Aunt Lila. I don't know what to do. You're all I've got." All she had was me. 15 minutes later, I was on the road, 3.5 hours in the rain, heading to the company's attorney in San Antonio. He was someone Sabrina trusted. I arrived around 3 a.m., soaked, holding paperwork and a debit card. I signed a temporary power of attorney, allowing Sabrina to manage funds under my name for 7 days. I also wired $240,000 directly into the company's operating account. No conditions, no collateral, just my sister's promise. "Ari, I owe you my whole career." We never talked about it again. Sabrina went back to Stanford, finished her degree, and returned with an impressive MBA, sliding right into the role of Chief Strategy Officer like it had always been the plan. I kept running day-to-day operations, no official title, no voting rights, just the problem solver. And I accepted it because I believed that one day I would be recognized, that one day they would truly see me. I stared at the ceramic mug that read Future CEO. Sabrina had given it to me for Christmas in 2017. Looking back now, it was probably just sugarcoating, a pretty wrapper around something bitter. I stood up, pulled open the drawer under the counter. The old quarterly binders were still intact. I traced the red label, Q2 2020. Inside were the wire transfer records, bank receipts, and a printed copy of the notarized temporary authorization. I resealed it with tape and set it aside. When I picked up the Mont Blanc pen again, it didn't feel beautiful anymore. It felt like a wound. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, but I knew this much. No one remembers the ones holding the door up until they're no longer there to catch it from falling. I opened my laptop and searched for the old email titled Loan Transfer, June 2020. I typed one note at the top of the file. If they forget, I'll remind them. I opened a sturdy box Melissa handed me that morning, the last thing I carried out of the Monroe Systems building. Every item inside held a memory, a scar, a question that had never been answered. But when I lifted the cardboard lining at the bottom, I didn't expect to find an unmarked envelope with a simple handwritten note. Ariana Monroe. Open only if necessary. I sat frozen for a moment, my mind racing through possibilities. The only thing I was certain of, this didn't come from Sabrina or my parents. They hadn't left me anything except silence. I pulled the envelope out, broke the seal, and inside were 2 cream-colored pages, printed on high-quality stock with a faint watermark from the law office of Mitchell and Grant. In the upper left corner was a signature I recognized instantly. Carlton Grant, the company's longtime in-house attorney. He had helped my father draft the original legal structure when Monroe Systems was first formed. I read through it once, then again. My hands went cold, but my eyes never left the page. It turned out that in 2018, right after I wired $240,000 to save the company from collapse, Carlton had initiated an official equity grant for me. According to the document, I had been awarded 12% non-dilutable shares with independent voting rights. The only condition that could void that ownership was a notarized resignation letter, which I had never signed. I collapsed into my chair. Through the days, I remembered one night 4 years ago, Carlton stopped by my office, carrying a small bottle of bourbon. He sat across from me, pensive, as if carrying a secret. He handed me the document and said, "Just in case the family ever forgets what you've done." I signed it without reading too closely, trusting him completely. I remember him joking, "I'll keep it on file. When the day comes, I'll know." I never expected that day to be today. I examined the document again. Every line, every seal, everything was notarized, dated with an internal file number and a verification code from Travis County. At the bottom were two signatures, mine and Carlton's. What I felt wasn't joy, it was quiet clarity. They thought I'd forget, that I was too trusting, too focused on saving them to remember what I still held. And they were almost right. Until this morning, I placed the papers back into the envelope, sealed it in a waterproof sleeve, and locked it in the mini safe inside my office. Then, I opened my laptop and accessed the internal shareholder portal I used to oversee equity management years ago. Strangely, my login still worked. Sabrina, or someone, had forgotten to disable it. With just a few clicks, I found the latest equity structure, dated last month. Under my name, Ariana Monroe, 12% voting equity, active. Status, no resignation on file. They knew, they absolutely knew, and they chose silence. They chose to remove me through a back door because the law wouldn't let them do it directly. I leaned on the desk, thoughts spiraling around one core truth. If I still held shares and voting power, then my termination was procedurally invalid. Without full shareholder approval, they couldn't formalize it. Worse, if they moved forward while hiding the existence of this document, they were suppressing legal ownership. I opened my old email archive, searching for exchanges with Carlton from 2018. There it was, the attachment. Ariana_equity grant_final PL. The message contained just one line. "You should keep a copy for yourself." I had kept it. I just didn't remember. I played a light classical playlist to steady my nerves, but inside I was more focused than I'd been in weeks. I was no longer the one left behind. They didn't fire me. They tried to erase me from history. I reopened my browser and logged into the SEC's Public Equity Agreements search system. I thought about sending copies of the documents to an independent accounting firm, thought about printing them, signing a certified copy, sealing them for delivery. Thought about every single person in that room clapping as I was pushed out of the very company I rebuilt from the last of my savings. And I typed a line into my digital journal. They forgot one thing. I'm the only one who never signed the resignation. And now, I'll be the first to unlock the door again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I was piecing together every fragment that had been hidden from me over the past 4 years. I opened every old folder on my computer, contracts I'd forgotten the names of, important emails I had never deleted. I started with the HR records, where I once submitted a proposal to raise salaries for the customer service team in early 2021. Sabrina had returned by then, taking the role of strategic advisor. A title that sounded grand, but in reality, she never did anything beyond organizing retreats and delivering flashy talks at conferences. I scrolled through dozens of emails, then stopped at an exchange between me, the CFO, and our former head accountant, Brent Taylor. One of the emails referenced several off-plan payments approved by Sabrina without going through proper budget oversight. I had my suspicions back then, but because I trusted them and was tied up handling a major legal case, I never followed through. I opened the attachment. It was the Q4 financial report for 2021. There was a $92,000 expense labeled internal communications, no attached contract, no specific invoice. My handwritten note still sat in the corner. Justify before further disbursement. But when I checked the system, I found something stranger. The official version of the report had been altered. My note was gone. Someone came to mind. Ethan Rousseau. the quiet accountant on the sixth floor, room 3B, who managed data reconciliation. Ethan was the type who never talked much, never joined group coffee runs, but never missed a number. Last year, when I spent nearly 2 weeks caring for my father in the hospital, Ethan once messaged me saying there were data irregularities from your sister's office. I had replied that I'd review later, and I never followed up. I searched through our old messages. His last one, dated October last year, read, "If you want to verify, I still have the original backups on a separate drive." I took a chance and messaged him. "Ethan, if you still have the data, I need to meet." Less than 10 minutes later, the typing dots appeared. A402 on Lamar Street, 9 a.m. tomorrow. The cafe was tucked between an old shoe repair shop and a printing place. I arrived 10 minutes early. Ethan was already there, wearing a light blue shirt and black-rimmed glasses, with a laptop and a silver metal USB drive in front of him. "You're here," he said calmly, skipping any small talk. I sat down. "Let's get straight to it. I don't need background. I just need to know, is it solid?" Ethan opened his laptop, plugged in the USB, and pulled up a folder labeled alt_versions. There were 7 Excel files, all with the same update date as the company's official report, but with different contents. "I didn't delete anything," he said, "because I figured you'd need it one day." I nodded, picking up the iced tea I hadn't touched. "Here's more," Ethan added, sliding over a slim envelope. "I recorded the internal board meeting from March 14th. You weren't there, right?" "My father was rushed to the ER that day," I replied. Ethan didn't comment. I just thought, you should hear what they said about you behind closed doors. I opened the envelope. A tiny micro SD card was inside, along with a slip of paper. "Convert to D-Wave, fold, dash, timestamps marked 1742 and 31:9. I took it still up. "I don't even know how to thank you." Ethan simply shook his head. "I used to think this company was a family. Turns out it belongs to whoever's willing to fight for it." That night, I transferred all the files into an encrypted hard drive. In the second audio file, at the 17-minute mark, I heard Sabrina's voice clearly. "Ariana doesn't fit our company image anymore. She's too emotional, not agile enough. If I have to, I'll forge her signature to speed up the escrow process." I hadn't misheard. At 31 minutes in, my mother spoke. "She won't react anyway. Ariana always backs down. It's a weakness. But it's also why we've kept our reputation clean." I sat alone in my office, listening to the recording again, then again, then again. There was no anger, just clarity. I opened a blank document and typed the first line of my action plan. "They mistook my silence for weakness. Now I'll use that silence to bring the curtain down." I was sorting through my LinkedIn inbox, something I had nearly forgotten about since 2021. In my mind, it was a simple step: update my profile for the next phase. But less than 5 minutes after reactivating my account, a message popped up, standing out among dozens of old connection requests. "Still got the fire, Ariana? I've got a proposal." Sender, Miles Rutherford. The name made me sit upright. Miles had been the first director of product development at Monroe Systems, the one who recruited me straight out of UC Berkeley, guiding me from a research engineer role into executive leadership. He was the first, and maybe only person who ever saw me as a true strategic partner, not as Sabrina's shadow. I typed back, hesitating slightly. "Still burning, but I'm standing in ashes." 1 minute later, a reply. "Then rebuild on clean ground. Call me tonight?" At 8 p.m. sharp, I dialed. Miles picked up before the second ring. "Still sharp as ever," he chuckled. "I need that cool head of yours. Straight to the point. I just left Archer Bio and I'm launching a new venture." I heard the wind and traffic in San Diego as he walked. "Want a seat at the table from day one, not as someone's assistant, not the fixer, but as co-founder. Your name on the door, your seat in the boardroom, not just for show." I paused for a few seconds, throat tightening, not from surprise, but because this offer was what I had hoped to receive from my own family for over a decade. yet never had. Miles continued, voice firm. I know you've been through enough. I also know what you're holding and how they tried to edge you out. But you don't need to fight fire with fire. You can build something better, stronger, and this time, it'll be yours. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. What do you need from me? Your strategic brain, your market instinct, and above all, you don't stab people in the back to take their place. He paused. We're going into next-gen health tech. No outdated systems, no boardroom politics where being the CEO's cousin gets you promoted. Just data, innovation, and results. I smiled. My first real one in weeks. Sounds like a manifesto. Call it that, Miles replied. No pressure. I'll send the pitch deck and equity proposal. If you're in, I'll book our first strategy session in Houston this coming Monday. And yes, your name will be in bold on every document. That night, I sat alone in my small kitchen, opening the file Miles had emailed. Project name, Nova Core Health. Clean, strong, no fluff. Every term laid out clearly. 45% equity for him, 45% for me, 10% reserved for early strategic investors. No mandatory transfer clauses, no family-first founder rights. I stared at the header, co-founder, Ariana Monroe. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. 3 days later, I walked into the fourth floor of a small office building near Midtown Houston. Miles was already there in the lobby, holding 2 cappuccinos. Did I guess right? He handed one to me. No sugar, with cinnamon. I smiled. Perfect. We walked together down the hall. The office wasn't finished yet. The walls were bare, fresh paint still in the air. But in the middle of the empty room stood a long walnut table and a blueprint pinned to the whiteboard. This is where we'll hold the launch. And this, Miles pointed to a temporary nameplate on the table, is your seat. The nameplate read, Ariana Monroe, Chief Strategy Officer, Co-Founder. I placed my hand on the table, feeling the raw grain beneath my palm. No more borrowed titles. No more temporary chairs. For the first time, I stood in my own place. Not behind, not beside, but center stage. I turned to Miles. So, where do we begin? He sipped his coffee. By showing them. You don't need inheritance to be a founder. I looked out the window, sunlight pouring through the glass tiles. The old battle wasn't over, but now I had a new foundation and a real team behind me. I spent all of Sunday in the makeshift office on Nova Core's 3rd floor, where the scent of fresh paint still lingered and loose wires dangled from the ceiling. On the table lay everything I'd gathered over the past 3 weeks. Copies of equity documents, tampered financial reports, voice recordings, screenshots of internal emails, and Ethan's testimony. But I knew evidence alone wouldn't be enough. I needed a platform where the truth could be heard without being twisted by my family's PR spin. One name came to mind, Trina Wallace. Irina was a veteran investigative reporter for the Austin Ledger, known for exposing corporate scandals buried under NDAs. We met 5 years ago during a community health campaign that our company had funded. Later, she was threatened with a lawsuit by a media conglomerate for publishing an article criticizing one of their major donors. I was the only executive who secretly sent her internal documents to protect the truth. She never forgot that. I sent a simple message. Trina, if you're still interested in hidden stories, I've got one worth telling. Less than 5 minutes later, she called. Her voice was just as sharp as I remembered. How much time do you have, and how much evidence? All of it, and it needs to go live soon. She didn't ask anything else, just said, meet me at my private studio, no phones, bring hard copies. That afternoon, I stepped into a converted loft on Austin's east side, where Trina had built an independent workspace for long-form investigations. Inside was a single long table, a corkboard covered in notes, a triple-locked filing cabinet, and 2 laser printers. It was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I handed her the envelope. She read through everything in silence, jotting red ink notes and sticking post-its on the wall in chronological order. When she got to the audio clip of Sabrina saying, "If I have to, I'll fake her signature to expedite the escrow phase," Trina paused. "That's the headline," she said. I didn't flinch. "And the line where your mom says she yields because she's weak, I want to open with that." "Use it," I said. "I have nothing left to hide." 3 days later, I walked into the Texas State Business Ethics Board with notarized sealed copies of every document. I completed the formal complaint paperwork, submitting all evidence, doctored reports, falsified contracts, and the audio of Sabrina admitting to forging my signature. I signed my name and handed the package to the legal officer. I only said one thing: "This isn't about revenge, it's about restoring the truth." 2 days later, the article dropped. The headline hit like a sledgehammer: "The Silent Founder, the Truth About Ariana Monroe and the Stolen MedTech Empire." Trina didn't just tell my story, she reconstructed the entire timeline. From 2013, when I co-signed the founding contract with my father, to 2020, when I wired funds to rescue the company, to the day I was ousted in a boardroom ambush disguised as a handover meeting. She included photos of original equity agreements, audio transcripts, and anonymous statements from 2 former employees, one of them being Ethan. The story spread faster than I imagined, shared by industry leaders, corporate lawyers, and even LinkedIn influencers. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Messages, emails, connection requests from investors, strategic advisors, and even former Monroe Systems employees who had left quietly. By late afternoon, I received an email from someone I never expected: Derek Lang, senior legal counsel at Frost Point Capital, the investment firm that declined to fund us last year due to internal structural instability. Subject line: "We believe you." That night, I opened my apartment window, letting the cool air brush across my shoulders. Outside was quiet, but inside me, a tide was rising. I knew Sabrina had read the article. I knew my mother had too, and I knew they were calling their attorneys, scrambling to control the damage. 3 days after Trina's article was published, Monroe Systems entered what the press called a temporary operational paralysis. A wave of investor calls were canceled, the company's website crashed for nearly 8 hours due to a traffic surge. But the most critical blow wasn't the media storm. It was the email I received from the Travis County District Attorney's Office on Thursday morning. "We need the original documents you submitted to the Ethics Council. The case has been escalated to a criminal investigation." I sat still for a few seconds, rereading the line, not out of panic, but because I knew the time had come. A week later, Sabrina Monroe was officially summoned to court on charges of falsifying financial records and unlawfully tampering with legally protected shareholder rights. The county court promptly approved a criminal investigation after reviewing evidence submitted by 3 independent parties: myself, the Ethics Council, and a third-party audit team brought in after the scandal broke. Her lawyer tried to argue that the forged signature was a simple internal miscommunication, but the recording of Sabrina admitting, "If needed, I'll fake her signature to speed up the escrow," silenced every defense. When the prosecutor read my name from the legal shareholder registry, the courtroom went dead quiet. Founding shareholder: Ariana Monroe, 12% non-dilutable equity, still legally valid. I wasn't in the courtroom that day. I watched it through a private live stream shared by a colleague at NovaCore, sipping warm tea and jotting down each timeline marker in the leather-bound journal I had bought back when I was just another junior staffer. The midday news ran a brief segment: "Sabrina Monroe, CEO of Monroe Systems, faces charges of document forgery to oust a founding shareholder. A conviction could lead 2 to 6 years in prison." A few hours later, I received a copy of the withdrawal notice from 2 strategic investors who had funded the company. They officially pulled all $7.2 million. Then came the knockout. Grace and Kendall Foundation announced they would redirect their funding to NovaCore. I hadn't reached out, I hadn't sent a pitch, but maybe truth doesn't need PR, it just needs to be told clearly, once, and without flinching. The following Monday morning, my mother appeared outside Monroe Systems headquarters. Cameras swarmed her like she was the wounded party. "I just asked the public to give my daughter space to explain," she said tearfully on camera. She's been misunderstood. I turned off the TV. This was no misunderstanding. This was the price of betrayed trust, of people who thought if they had enough power, they could rewrite history. In the end, Sabrina was convicted of financial document forgery for personal gain under Section 32.46 of the Texas Penal Code. She received a 3-year suspended sentence and was ordered to pay over $950,000 in civil damages, compensating me for equity loss and legal fees. My lawyer barely had to argue. The evidence spoke for itself. The company's spokesperson issued a clumsy press release. We regret the internal incident and are committed to full reform. Within 2 weeks, 3 senior executives resigned. Investment boards withdrew support. As for me, I appeared on no media outlets. I didn't need to stand under studio lights to declare victory. The chair they stole from me, they couldn't keep it. That night, I walked into Novacor's office. The lights still on past 8 p.m. Miles was at the far end, reviewing our first quarter's cash flow report. He looked up when he saw me. "All done?" he asked. I nodded. "Legal's finished, ethics are clean, reputation, they'll have to rebuild that on their own." Miles smiled and slid a freshly laser-engraved nameplate toward me. Ariana Monroe, CEO and co-founder. I picked it up, catching the reflection of my first real smile in months. No fireworks, no applause, just the quiet hum of justice. And me, finally, in my rightful seat. 1 month after the trial, Novacor's new office was officially completed. No big billboard, no red ribbon cutting ceremony, just an ordinary day. But for me, it marked the moment a different version of Ariana Monroe stepped into life. We leased the top floor of a building on South Congress, where the morning sun streamed through wide glass panes and the afternoon breeze carried the scent of coffee from the cafe downstairs. The space was open, filled with light. No cold partitions like at Monroe Systems. We had no executive-only meeting rooms. Everyone sat at the same type of desk and the same kind of chair. Except for one. A worn oak chair my father made for me when I turned 25, the year I was first promoted to the executive team. Back then, he gave me the chair as a quiet gift. No bow, no card. Just 3 words carved into the back. Just start. I had kept it, moving it through 3 apartments, 2 office renovations, and once almost threw it away when I felt I no longer deserved anything. Today, I brought that chair to Novacor, but I added a new inscription. Just below the original words, carved deeper. She did. Novacor isn't the dream I drew up when I was 23. It's more grounded, more real, and most importantly, I didn't build it alone. Beside me was Layla Chen, former chief operating officer at a healthcare company in San Jose, let go after she refused to participate in illegal patient data collection. And Maya Holt, a researcher from Nashville who lost her entire lab for refusing to falsify trial results. The 3 of us. 3 women with 3 different stories, but one thing in common. We were all pushed aside for refusing to stay silent. I didn't want their loyalty. I needed their honesty. And that's exactly what they brought to Novacor. Every day. That morning, during our first full team meeting, I didn't give a long speech. I simply opened a small box, pulled out a metal plaque, and placed it just outside the conference room. It read, "You don't need to be given power, you already have it. Here, use it." The room went silent. Then came soft applause. No cheers, no fanfare, just nods of recognition. Quiet understanding. I walked to the whiteboard, drew a large circle, and wrote in the center, "Patient first." That's something Sabrina never understood. To her, clients were numbers. To me, they're people. By noon, I slipped out of the meeting room and settled into a quiet corner of my office. Outside the window was the Austin skyline, the same city where I had once fallen and now stood again. My phone buzzed. A message came in from an unknown number. "This is Christina Fay, your former assistant. Thank you for not staying silent. I'm rewriting my resume, and for the first time in 3 years, I listed my real job title." I didn't reply right away, just saved the number, tagged it as returning one. That evening, I got home, kicked off my heels, and slid into my worn out slippers. The kitchen smelled of warm ginger and mint tea. I opened my laptop and typed the final line in a journal I had been writing since the day I was fired. I'm no longer a victim. I am a witness. I am the one who rebuilt everything from the rubble they left behind. I saved it, closed the laptop, and stepped out onto the balcony. Night had fallen, the city was quiet. I looked down at the street, shop lights still glowing, people still moving. Life doesn't stop when you fall. It waits for the moment you rise, stronger than ever. And I, Ariana Monroe, no longer looked back. Ariana Monroe's story isn't just about exposing betrayal within a family. It's a testament to quiet resilience and unwavering intelligence. From being pushed out of the company she helped build, she rose again, reclaiming her dignity with truth and strategic grace. In real life, her journey reminds us that justice doesn't always come from the loudest voice. Sometimes it begins the moment we dare to face ourselves and keep walking, even without applause. What do you think about Ariana's choice? Would you have done the same in her place? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family, healing, and self-reclamation.